excited to introduce you to new foundation paper pads by It's Emma. This one is the Woven Star, and we're offering it in 4-inch and 6-inch sizes. They're both charm pack friendly. It's very easy, and I'm going to show you how to make the block. When you look at this block, there are 8 different pinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus a background. And when you look at this, the paper is going to give you the ability to not cut into these fabrics. So you won't have to make hourglass or flying geese or Y seams. It's just going to be 4 different units that you put together. When you're working with any foundation paper, it's great to have the right tools. I 100% recommend having size 90 Schmetz needles. If you have anything lower than a size 90, the paper is going to be harder to pull off. I love using sew-line glue because when you attach your fabric to your paper, it easily will pull off. The add a quarter ruler will give you nice unbulky seams because it will trim exactly what you need, and the quick press seam roller will save you trips back and forth to the iron. Now that we have our supplies, I'm going to show you how to make the 6-inch block. The first thing you're going to do is turn your pad of paper over, and it's going to tell you exactly what to cut, and here are the instructions. So when you buy your paper, you want to make sure you don't throw this away. And as you can see, we're going to be making units. There are going to be 4 units, and then we're going to put those together. And it's going to give your fabric a seamless design where nothing is cut up, and it's going to be really pretty. So our first step is to pull a paper out of the pad. And when you pull this out, you can see you have 4 units. You're going to assemble each unit one at a time. This one has dotted lines that create an X. That's where you want to cut first. So when you do that, you get 4 identical units. So it doesn't matter which one you start with, but you're going to make all of these the same way. 4 of these will create one block. From your light fabric, you're going to cut 2 3 3/4 inch squares and 4 3.5 inch squares. From there, you're going to cut these on the diagonal once. Your fabric 1s will go here, and your fabric 4 and 5s will go here. For your fabrics 2 and your fabrics 3, fabric 2, you need 4 2 1/4 by 3 inch rectangles. And from placement 3, you need 4 2 1/4 by 4 inch rectangles. Now what I've done is I've cut all of mine 4 inches so that I have variety and can put them on either side so that they can go on either 2 or 3. That is a little bit wasteful, but it gives me that scrappiness that I'm looking forward to. So you can either cut them 3 inches or 4 inches, however you would like. So for 1 unit, this is what we're going to be working with. Now my next step I think is really important. All of these straight lines right here, I want to create a crease. When you look at the back now, you really can't see those numbers. You can't see where the fabric goes. So if you create the creases, it's going to make the next step really easy. So now when you turn it over, you can kind of see where everything goes. You're gonna, anytime you're working with paper, you wanna go in numerical order. So you're gonna take your fabric 1, which is right here, and your goal is you're gonna put that where it goes and go down a little bit. You wanna make sure you have a 1/4 inch past that crease. So I'm gonna put some glue, go down about a 1/4 inch, and just place that. Now the glue is gonna keep it intact. I'm gonna leave enough out here so I can trim off later, and I'm gonna pull this back and make sure I've got a 1/4 inch here. If it's not a 1/4 inch, you can trim it or adjust your paper. Then you'll move from number 1 to number 2. So you're gonna place this, and I'm gonna put this right sides together. And when you open this, it will create this. So you can see you're going to be covering all of this and all of this. Now, like I said, I cut all of my pieces bigger so I wouldn't have to pick between the pinks. So your piece might be a little bit shorter. I'm going to keep that together. I'm not going to use glue or anything like that. And I'm going to sew all the way off the paper, all the way down. And when I get to this intersection, I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch past. That is an optional step that some people do and some people don't. I'm using a size 90 needle, and I'm using like a 1.2 stitch length. The smaller your stitch length, the easier the paper is to come off. I would say whatever your normal stitch length is, reduce that by 0.5. here, you're gonna turn this over, finger press, and I'm gonna use the seam press roller to get it nice and flat. If you're gonna use an iron, just do not use steam because the steam will put some water in your paper and make it a little bit icky. So we've added 2, now we're gonna go to 3. You'll pull the paper back so that it is straight with this line right here. Crease and cut a 1/4 inch away. I didn't have much to cut just because of how I placed my fabric originally. Then you're gonna take another print and put it here. And when you look at it, just make sure it's gonna cover at least a 1/4 inch past this and it's slightly past here. Once that's correct, place them right sides together. Again, hold it in place. You're gonna sew off of the paper all the way down, and then I'm gonna go off the paper about 1/4 inch. So you can see my stitch line goes all the way across. Again, turn this over, finger press. Use your seam roller. And then we're gonna add 4 and 5 right here. So the first thing you'll do is pull this paper back a little bit. That's why some people don't stitch beyond it, but I just pull the paper back, crease, and chop this off. And there is a little bit of waste, but you would have that same waste if you were doing an hourglass or any other kind of unit. And as you can see, you have this beautiful piece of fabric that's not cut into. So then we're gonna add 4 and 5. You can do these at the same time. You're basically gonna want it to look like this on the other side. So you're gonna put that right sides together and sew. And you're also going to do the same thing on this side, right sides together and sew. So I'm gonna hold these in place and then I'm gonna sew, and I'm gonna sew all the way off the paper, all the way across and all the way off the paper on both sides. This is how it looks, and when you open this, the white should cover the paper. From here, I'm gonna press this down. Make sure everything is nice and flat. Then from here, you can either go to the iron and press this, or you can leave it like it is. As long as it's flat, I think it's fine. Now there are 3 sides to this triangle. 1, 2, 3. This is the outside of the block. So at this point, I'm not actually gonna cut that. That's a tip from me. I'm only gonna cut these 2. So you're gonna be cutting on the solid line, not the dotted line. And this says first trim line right there. Cut there, rotate, and this also says first trim line. You're gonna cut there. And again, I'm going to be leaving this uncut. This is up to you if you wanna cut this now or later. I'm gonna show you my way. So this is the one we made. You're gonna make 3 more. And what I like to do is just lay them out and just see how they look. And I like that, let's see, let's put the darks opposite. I don't think I like that. I just kind of rotate them around to how I think they look good. I think that looks really good. Reminder, we've cut on these 2 lines and not the outside line. So from here, what I want to do is I want to sew these 2 together and these 2 together. I'm going to leave the paper on. So you put your fabrics right sides together and pin. And what you can do is you can put your pin in this intersection right here to the other side and make sure it comes out the same intersection and the same hole. Once you have that, hold it tight and then repin. And then you see these dots here. Poke your pin in the dot on this side, right in that dot. Go to the other side and poke your pin in that dot in the exact spot. So if your pin goes through both dots, put your pin straight up and repin. Then you're gonna go to the end, and I'm gonna do the same thing right on the end where that intersection is. I'm gonna put the pin there. Do the same thing on the back. Make your pin stand straight up and pin. Then you're gonna do the same thing on the other one. So for me, it's kind of all about poke a pin. If you just make sure your pins line up the paper on each side, it's gonna come out really nice. You could just pin together and hope for the best. It's totally up to you, but that's what these dots are for. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna start sewing off the paper, stitch all the way across on both of these. So So from here, I'm gonna open and just make sure that those meet up. They don't have to be perfect, but I will tell you with using a really short stitch length, it's almost impossible to pull these out, so that's why I pinned. From here, before we press with the iron, we wanna take off a couple of papers. We wanna take off these inside skinnies. I don't know what else you would call them, without taking the rest of the paper off, because if you don't take this off now, it's gonna be really hard to take off later. So take that little piece off and this little piece off on both sides. Then you'll press to one side. I'm gonna use my seam press roller. Press to the other side. So you can press these seams opposing, that's what I'm gonna do, or you can press open. Either way works fine, but opposing is gonna make it match really nice. So I'm gonna put these right sides together, and the seams, they're gonna nest, and you can just feel it right where they nest. You'll pin that, and then you're gonna do the same thing on these dots. You're gonna find the dot on one side, on the other side, pin. Do the same thing at the ends. Once you have that pinned, you're gonna stitch all the way off the fabric, all the way across, and all the way off the fabric. So this is how your block looks. It looks really good. What I'm gonna do before I trim down, I am gonna take these little pieces off. You can use tweezers to pull the paper off if you're more comfortable with that. I'm a little bit clumsy with that and I end up pulling the fabric, but sometimes people do use tweezers to pull off the small pieces. Just press to one side. And it's nice and flat, so we can trim that down. I'm gonna go to the wrong side of the fabric. I'm gonna use, this is a 6.5 inch block, so I'm gonna use a 6.5 inch square Creative Rids ruler. If you put that on your paper, you're gonna see exactly where to cut. You can do that, or you can cut on the solid lines on all four sides. I prefer to use a rotating mat, put a square ruler on top, and trim. So I'll trim two sides, rotate, trim the other two sides, and your block is exactly 6.5 inches. So from here, then I would just take all of the paper off. There's gonna be some little tiny ones to take off. I would just go from the outside to the inside, but since you took these off, it makes it a lot easier. If those weren't taken off, it'd be really kind of hard to get back in there because they're kind of covered up now. And your block, of course, without that paper, it's gonna lose some of its stiffness. So then at this point you would iron. But I just wanted to point out how beautiful this block is because there's no cuts in between. It's just a nice seamless design. I'm so happy we have the Woven Star paper now because it's been on my wish list for a couple of years. So from here I am gonna do an all over press. And it's that easy. You just wanna make sure when you flip it over, everything's nice and flat. So besides the Woven Star, we also have other block designs in foundation paper. We have courthouse steps, log cabin, pineapple, snail trail. This one is amazing. Economy blocks, sparkle star, and vintage kite. All of these are offered in 4-inch and 6-inch sizes, so you can easily mix and match them with the Woven Star block to make a totally unique and scrappy quilt. So here's the block in the 6-inch and 4-inch size. They're totally cute, so scrappy, and I can't wait for you to make them. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.